So actually what happens when we start the project, first I will explain the predictive part. Okay. So what happens in the predictive cycle or in any cycle, that every organization has what? Let me start with the previous one. Every organization has what? A vision. Based upon that vision, they always go with the gap analysis. And once they go with the gap analysis, what happens? They come up with the feasibility study. They also come, feasibility contains what? Options or options of projects which can be done to achieve the vision. After that, what happens? Business case is prepared because feasibility study is approved. And feasibility study contains multiple options and they approve one of them. So for that one of them, business case is prepared by the business analyst and get it approved. What is business case? It contains the reason why we are doing the project. A part of this, another document is created called as benefits management plan, which contains the financial benefits like NPV, ROI, cost benefit analysis, benefit to cost ratio, IRR, present value, and payback period. It also contains what? Assumptions, constraints, risk, matrix, who is the benefit owner, and what will be the strategic alignment because of this project in our organizations. When 3 documents are prepared, then we hired a sponsor. So it's like this: sponsor, customer, and seller. Who is the seller? The executing organization. Sponsor, the provider, and customer, the benefit owner. So they did multiple discussions with multiple sellers for sure, like on a cup of coffee and so on. And then which one they are going to select, what they do, the sponsor issue a document called project chart. So the process, you don't need to remember the process name, it's enough now. The process is called as develop project charter, and input to this is what? Feasibility study, business case, benefits management plan, and the agreements they have signed. So the output which will come as project charter. What project charter contains? The reason why we are doing the project, what are the major milestones, what are the compliance requirement, what are the strategic alignments, are there any approval requirements, what is the sponsor, who is the sponsor and what is his authority, who is the project manager and what is his authority, who are the initial stakeholders. When project manager becomes the project manager with the help of charter, so from the first day he starts his assumption logs. So to start the work or before starting the work, these assumptions can be verified that they are still valid or not. After becoming the project manager by project charter, first task of the project manager is to identify stakeholder and make a document called stakeholder register, which contains their names, their contact information, their requirements, their expectations. Other things also influence categories and so on. So based upon their requirements and expectations, project manager start a process to prepare the project management plan. And for the project management plan, if you guys remember, I have made you a situation that he invites his functional managers and he put the project charter in the middle and asked them to provide the inputs. So the first thing which is prepared is called as, for sure they're starting the project management plan, but inside project management plan, the first thing is prepared is called as scope management plan, which defines how the project scope will be prepared, what details will be required, what will be the approval requirements, what will be the methodology, agile, hybrid, predictive, adaptive, incremental, overlapping, sequential relationships, all will be discussed in scope management plan. Similarly, there will be another management plan called requirements management plan, which describes how requirements will be collected and from whom. So once you have done a scope management plan and requirements management plan, what we do, we start collecting the requirements. We can collect the requirements with the help of brainstorming, focus group, facilitation, questionnaire, surveys, interviews, prototype, benchmarking, the Delphi technique, mind mapping, affinity diagram, context diagram. These are all the techniques to collect the requirements. When so many requirements are collected, which requirements we collect? We collect functional requirements, which are mandatory, non-functional requirements, quality requirements, domain requirement, industry specific requirements, stakeholder requirements, and business requirements. And the properties of requirement should be what? They should be correct, they should be clear, they should be concise, they should be traceable, they should be measurable, and they should be attached to the project objectives. So when we collect all the requirements, so we have so many requirements documentation. What we do, we put them in a single document called requirement traceability matrix. On those basis, we prepare a detailed multi-pages project scope statement, which contains the detailed scope of the project, the quality requirements, also the exclusion requirements, what should not be done, and then also the inclusion requirements. Based upon exclusion requirements, we have two things called gold plating. What is gold plating? If the seller provide the work extra than the scope is called as gold plating. If the customer asks more than the scope, it is called as scope creep. If the customer asks something which is not written in the scope and you do it and you charge the money for this, it is called as scope creep. And the sponsor will always be angry if you will do the scope creep, because you are asking some payment which was not written in the project management plan. While gold plating is what? Providing extra than the scope, and both are criminal act. They should not be done, because if you want to do anything, it should be done with the help of the change request. So when project scope statement is done, what we do? We create a document called work breakdown structure. The first level of work breakdown structure is the project. The second is control accounts, and control account is what? All work packages plus contingency reserves. And when we add all control accounts, what it becomes? It becomes cost baseline. And in cost baseline, we add what? Management reserves. It becomes the project budget. What are the contingency reserves? They are added in the cost estimates for known risk, known impact, or known risk, unknown impact. What are the management reserves? Unknown risk and unknown impact. So WBS is prepared, and also WBS dictionary. What is WBS dictionary? It contains the whole work in the work package form, resources required to complete the project. The numbers on the control accounts and work package is called as code of accounts or control identifiers used for costing purpose and to track the things. Similarly, when we have the scope baseline ready, what is the scope baseline? It contains the scope statement plus WBS plus WBS dictionary. So if it is signed, we call it a scope baseline. Upon those bases, we will start defining the activities. And once you define activities, we have to define their sequences, which are mandatory dependency, which cannot be changed, called as hard logic. Discretionary dependencies can be changed, called as soft logic. External dependency not in our control, called as hard logic. Internal dependencies, we call it resource-based dependencies. It also has a relationship finish to start, most commonly used, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish, most rarely used. With that, we have two things: leads, you can start an activity earlier than its planned time, and we have lag, mandatory waiting time between two activities. So once we will prepare the sequences, now I will do what? Estimations. To estimate in predictive, we have methods what? Analogous from past, parametric with mathematical, and bottom up is detailed. If we have uncertainties, we do the 3-point estimation, which is what? O plus M plus P divided by 3. We call it simple average, or we call it O plus 4M plus P divided by 6 beta, or third duration. Once we do this, we will be able to prepare the schedule, which is Gantt chart type of thing. And once it's approved, it becomes the schedule baseline. So scope baseline is ready, schedule baseline is ready, and cost baseline is ready. And when we were preparing the scope baseline, we already provided the quality management plan, which type of quality we need to complete the project. And if we want to finish the project early, we have to perform crashing or fast tracking if we don't have money to reduce the project level. We can perform resource leveling at the time of planning, which means our baseline can be changed. If we are in execution, we can use resource smoothing, which means getting the activities from the critical path and non-critical path and deploying on the critical path is called as resource smoothing. When we are asked to perform resource leveling, resource smoothing, crashing, or fast tracking, to do that, we perform what if scenario analysis, which is actually the risk analysis to be performed by the project manager, and he can take the actions accordingly. So what if scenario analysis is performed for crashing, fast tracking, resource leveling, or resource smoothing. Apart of that, what we do, we use critical path method, which is the shortest path, longest path to complete a project in shortest duration, or critical chain management, which contains buffers to cover the reworks or delays in the project. If you have high risk in the project, it's better to go with critical chain management. Otherwise, you can go with critical path method. The activities which are on critical path are called as critical path activities, and float value on critical path is always what? 0. What is float? The amount of time you can delay an activity without delaying the project duration. What is free float? The amount of time you can delay an activity without delaying the start of next activity. To calculate the float, we have formula total float is equals to late start minus early start, or late finish minus early finish. Then we discuss that to monitor our performances, we can perform earned value management with the help of 3 variables: planned value, earned value, and actual cost. And for that, we have 4 formulas: cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, schedule performance index. And we said every formula will start with earned value. And we said variance means difference, difference means minus, index means ratio, so divide. And the variable, second variable will be based upon the formula. So if it is cost formula, the cost variable will come, otherwise schedule. If it is cost related, so cost will come, otherwise planned value. Then based upon this, we can forecast it. ETC is equals to total work minus what we have done. And if you are going with the current one, so we will divide it with the CPI. Then we can calculate it how much money we need. So what we can do, actual cost plus amount of remaining work. Or if it is the current one, we will take the budget and divide it by CPI. These were the equations for the forecasting. And if you have variance, we can use the variance at completion, EAC minus BAC, to find out how much more money we need to complete the project. So what you are doing actually, let me take you to the slides now. You prepare the whole project management plan. What is project management plan? It contains 10 management plans. It contains 3 baselines. It contains change management plan, configuration management system, governance. Everything is in the project management plan. You will submit the project management plan to the customer or sponsor. They will review it and they will approve it. Once approved, you will give the performance measurement baselines. What is performance measurement baseline? Performance measurement baseline is the combination of scope, schedule, and cost baseline. These 3 baselines are called as performance measurement baselines. These baselines are given to the execution team for execution. Execution team starts working, and on daily basis, they issue the daily progress report. We call it work performance data. And from the first day, they start the issue log. So if any risk converted or any new issue arise, we can log it. This issue log will help to curate the lesson learned register, to establish the lesson learned register, which will help you throughout the project. And you have to complete it at the end of the project and update it in the OP. So while working, you will monitor your performances, which means that work performance data will be converted into work performance information and then compiled into work performance report and distributed to the stakeholders as per the stakeholder engagement plan and communication management plan. When these reports will reach to the stakeholders, they may produce the change request. What is the procedure of change request? The procedure of change request is stakeholder will file the change request. It will come to PM. PM with the team will analyze the change request and its impact on project objectives. He is not a decision maker. He will write down his opinion or suggestion whether to accept it or reject it and submit to change control board. And the process is called as integrated change control. Change control board will review the change request. They can accept it, reject it, or defer it. If it is accepted, you will give the updated baselines or updated performance measurement baselines to the execution team. And if it is rejected or deferred, you will inform to the stakeholders that it was rejected or deferred. Whatever the results, execution team will start implementing, and this circle will continue throughout the project. And as I said, the process name is called as integrated change control. So change request comes to change control board in the process called integrated change control, where change control board approve the change request. If it is approved, you update the baselines and give it back to the execution team so they can start working, and this circle continues throughout the project. When the phase of the project is finished, we go to close project, which means that customer has accepted and he is ready to sign off. Once he sign off, you will to move towards close project, which means you will make the transition of deliverable with the help of sponsor to the customer. All the technical and financial claims should be closed. If they are not closed, you as a project manager cannot start a new project, and you cannot leave the project until all the claims are finished. Once all the claims are finished, technical and financial claims, so you can close the project. And the procedure of closing the project is what? You will have a post-project meeting where you can do the post-mortem of the project for the lesson learned purpose. What went wrong, how we did it, how we should continue in the next project, and so on. Then you will take the feedback of the customer, that what was their impression for the project and how satisfied they are with the project. So this is called as performance report. All these things will be uploaded into OPA, or we call it PMIS, or we call it lesson learned repository. And relevant files, the project files will be distributed to the relevant stakeholders. We call it distribution of project files or dossiers. Then project manager can leave the job and go to another project. That is what the predictive life cycle of the project. The most important part of the risk was you can have the risk management plan where we define the appetite of the stakeholders and then tolerance level of the stakeholders and the reporting formats to report the risk. Based upon that, we prepare a document called risk register, which contains the name of the risk, who will be the risk owner, who will be the risk action owner, qualitative risk analysis to classify them as low, medium, and high. And if required, quantitative is optional. So we use Monte Carlos, we use decision tree, we use tornado diagram, or any other tool to perform quantitative risk analysis so we can evaluate the management result. For qualitative, we evaluate the contingency results. So based upon that, we prepare the response. For negative risks are called as threats, positive risks are called as opportunities. In both cases, we can do what? Escalate. Here we can avoid, here we can exploit, here we can mitigate, here we can enhance, here we can transfer, and here we can share. And in both cases, we can do accept. And acceptance are of two types, passive or active. Active means you are allocating the contingency reserve, and passive means you are not taking any actions, and if it happens, you will take the management reserve. There are 5 conflict management techniques. Avoid, you don't want to deal with the conflict now, leave it alone. Smooth or accommodate, which means that you want to take some time so that things become normal. Or you can use force, which is called as win/lose. They are lose-lose, they are lose-lose. Or you can compromise, both parties will go back from their positions, so it is also called as lose-lose. And the best one is what? Collaborate. Both win-win situations. Then we have 5 stages of team development, which is called as forming, collecting all together, storming, they have conflicts, norming, they agree to work together as a team, performing, let them work. Once finished performing, adjourn. And this framework is by Bruce Tuckman, or we call it Tuckman ladder. These are the 5 stages of team development. Then we have motivation theories. Number 1 was Maslow, which has 5 stages, which is what? Food, security, social, self-esteem, and self-actualizations. We have Hertzberg, which has hygienic factors plus motivation factors. We have McGregor, X and Y. X are bad type of people, Y are creative type of people. McCleveland achievement theory provides the rewards accordingly. These are the motivation theories. Then we have what? Quality theories. Mr. Deming is used. They all work under the umbrella of Kaizen, continuous improvement. Deming says PDCA or PDSA. Crosby says work on cost of quality, or quality is free. Then we have what? Six Sigma framework for eliminate waste, and it has Sigma 1, which is 65, Sigma 2, which is 95, Sigma 3 is 99.73, and Sigma 6 is 99.99 to eliminate the waste. So these are what main theories which will come in exam for sure, and you need to find the answers. Then we have 7 quality tools: flowchart, sequence of operations, root cause analysis or fishbone diagram. We have Pareto or 80-20, which says that majority of the errors are because of some critical errors. We have check sheets. We note down the progress on daily basis, so we can perform the we can make the histogram or bar chart. On that, we can perform Pareto analysis. We have a scatter diagram to track the relationship between 2 variables, and we have control chart to look at the process which has upper limit and lower limit. If it goes out of the process, so you have to fix the mean value of the project. There are 5 categories of stakeholders: unaware, resistant, they can do everything whatever they can to go against you; neutral, they are not doing anything; supportive, that's all you want all of them; and leading, they will try to lead you, so you want them to be converted into supportive. For that, you use stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. There is a thing called stakeholder engagement cube for power and interest. So we make this type of cube. We said keep informed, and keep informed and engaged, and just keep informed and highly proactive. So it is called as low to high and low to high. So this is the people who are indirectly connected to the project. These are the team members. These are the executive management, and this is the sponsor. So we need to understand how is their power. No, sorry. This side is influence, and this side is power. So based upon the power, we engage them accordingly in the project. Sponsor have high in power and high influence. Management have high power but low influence. The people who are not directly connected, they have low power and low influence, and the team member have high influence but low power. This is called as a stakeholder engagement queue to find out the dependency which is stakeholder to be engaged accordingly. There are two types of communication, formal and informal, and they both have written and oral. Formal will only be used when you are communicating with external stakeholders or there is a problem. Internal, between your team members. Formal written is like contracts. Formal verbal is like meetings and presentations to the customer. Informal verbal or informal written is like with your team members emails as informal. Your basic communication model, which we have sender, and sender has to encode and receiver has to decode. And if you have barriers in the communication like noise, language, culture, distance, then we have to collect the feedback. So this was from communication. So communication is stakeholder procurements. Fixed price contracts can only be used when the scope of work is clear, can be used for longer durations of project. Buyer is safe and seller at risk. Cost reimbursable contracts. Buyer is at risk, seller is safe, can be used for longer durations of project, and scope of work is not clear. And time and material is hybrid, combination of both. We set actually the unit rate, daily rate or hourly rate to finish the project. In Agile, we use customized based project or we use master service agreement. And for each iterations, we can use appendix or addendums. That is what procurement. The most important thing which happens in the procurement is make or buy analysis. And based upon that, we select the type of contract, which contract we have to perform. In 9 knowledge areas, project manager belongs to seller or answer as a seller. But in procurement, he becomes as buyer because he's buying for the project. We perform the bidder conference to answer the seller's questions. And then we negotiate the agreement. In communication, we use the war room. It could be physical or it could be virtual, which is called as co-location and which give rise for the osmotic communications. So that is it from the predictive. I think I recalled all the information, right? Nothing is left. Awake?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, let's go for the agile part. This is it. Come on, please. You can see the screen yet or not yet? Now you can see the screen, right? Here I will not use pen a lot. I will use just the slides. Agile started with there are 4 manifestos of the Agile, which says that individuals and their interactions are more important than following the process and tool, which is in the predictive. Working software or working project is more important than writing the comprehensive documentation. If you remember, I was saying low tech, high touch, and high tech, low touch. Predictive work with high tech, low touch, while agile work with the low tech and high touch model. So they prefer to have the burn up and burn down chart instead of preparing the Gantt chart and so on. They said customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiations. When we negotiate the contracts, we actually losing the quality or we compromise on something. So if you want to deliver the value, for sure negotiations should be done, but not on the basis of values. Responding to change is more important than in predictive what we saw. No, it's written in the scope. I'm not going to make change. Everything will be destroyed. This mentality should be changed. So these are the 4 Agile manifesto, and based upon there are 12 principles of Agile, which are not your part. This is the part of ACP certifications, but just in case if they ask, there are 12 principles, and these 12 principles revolves around Agile. In predictive, scope remains fixed, time and resources keep changing. In Agile, resources or the cost and time remain fixed, but scope keeps changing. In Agile, project manager role is distributed into multiple levels. Product owner, who is responsible for requirements, team is responsible for work, and Scrum Master, coach, or team lead is responsible for facilitation or governance. In Agile, teams are cross-functional, which means one can do one thing. We call it T-shaped team, right? And that he can also do other things. Every conflict, every work will be organized by the team. Scrum Master will not sneak his nose inside that what is going on. Let me advise you until asked. So this is the team. We call it cross-functional. One can do one thing, other can do other thing. They are good at one thing, but they can do other things also. And the size of the team is between 1 to 60 members. To use in the predictive one, we use Gantt chart. In the adaptive, we use Scrum board, Kanban board, burn-up chart, or burn-down chart. Here, project manager is responsible. Here, everyone is looking at the boards and adapting according to the situations. Every team has a team lead or a scrum master, and above every team there is a scrum of scrums, and you can scale up to any level, no problem. What happens in Agile? Product owner brings the product backlog and keeps it updated with the help of the team. Then team perform the planning meeting and produce the sprint backlog. Then a sprint start, and while sprint start, we have a daily stand-up meeting where 3 questions are asked by the scrum master: what you did yesterday, what you will do today, and what are your impediments, obstacles, or blockers. Once the iteration is finished, we perform the review meeting. If in review meeting the work is accepted, then we'll put it in a site for as per the release schedule. If not accepted, we put them again in the backlog. Then it has to be prioritized. Then it becomes the iteration backlog, and this circle will continue throughout the project. After the review meeting, we may perform the retrospect meeting for the lesson learned, connection, or continuous improvement. We said that this should be having the prioritization. The value which will provide highest return should be on the top, and the stories which have highest risk should be on the top. For prioritization, there are prioritization schemes. Number 1 is customer value prioritizations, which means customer said do it first, we have to do it first. Otherwise, we have what? Moscow. Moscow means must have, should have, could have, won't have. Must have features must be there. Want have features are those, they would be nice to have, but not necessary to be included. So must have on the top, should have on the top, second, then could have, and then last should be want have. That's how we prioritize the requirement. We can do it in predictive also, like this. We can also use another model called Kano model, which says the features which excite the customer should be on the top. Then satisfiers, which adds value to the customer, should be second. Dissatisfiers, that if not present, customer will become angry. So you can arrange the product backlog as per this. Indifferent, they don't add any value and should be eliminated. So this is what Kano analysis: exciters, delighters, satisfiers, dissatisfiers, and indifferent. In exam, these 2 questions will always be must. So be ready for it. This is used for the prioritization of requirements. Project planning, product backlog is prepared like this. And then product backlog is divided into iterations or sprints. And then releases are defined that in how many sprints, how many releases we will launch. And then these releases will be released as per the release plan, which we have provided in the beginning. We said Agile is everything time boxed. A sprint is 1 to 6 weeks. Daily stand-up meeting is 15 minutes. Retrospect is 1 hour per week. If the sprint is 1 week, you can spend 1 hour. If it is 2 weeks, you can spend 2 hours. Planning meeting is 2 hours per week. If it is 1 week, you will spend 2 hours. If it is 2 weeks, you will spend 4 hours. If it is 3, we will spend 6 hours and so on. Review meeting is also 1 hour per week as per the sprint size. So everything is what? Time boxed. We said the stories which have highest return and highest risk should come on the top. To bring the highest risk on the top, we will perform what? EMV is equals to P multiplied by I. So whose P multiplied by I will be high, they should come on the top. Similarly, the changes which provides highest value should also come on the top. And that is what we call it groomed product backlog, which means changes are coming. When changes are not there, we call it prioritized product backlog. When we have changes coming, we call it updated prioritized product backlog or groomed product backlog. For the information, we use what? Information radiators, or we can use task boards, Kanban boards, or agile boards to measure the performances. The purpose of task board or Kanban board is what? To limit the work in progress and avoid multitasking and removing the bottlenecks. This is the advantage of Kanban board. So, and this is what? Burn up chart. Burn up chart is for, okay. Burn up chart, how much work is completed. Burn down chart, how much work is remain. And that was the agile part of the training. Wait, 1 minute, I will forget it. Yes. Then there are agile methodologies, and I said 70% is covered by the Scrum. Then there is another popular one, which is called as Safe Agile, which is used mostly in program management. And now with the program, I remember program is what? It's a related project which gives value or benefit. And portfolio was strategic objectives. Then we have XP, or we call it extreme programming. It is only used in IT. And we have Crystal family, I think. They all are the part of actually agile certification, but maybe they can ask. Crystal family, they are the most common one, common agile methodologies. But mostly the Scrum, and the questions can come, one question can come from extreme programming, which has a question called refactoring. I think I told you before, pairwise programming also. What happens when one person make a program, another team member checks that program to make sure that it doesn't have any ambiguity or any complicated thing. If it is something, he will make it simplified. So this is called as refactoring. If this question comes, rarely comes, it doesn't come a lot, but if it comes, this is called as refactoring. And I told you iteration 0 is performed for the setup, and iteration H is performed for the additional quality control. That's it. Thank you very much.